Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome to Wolfpack Pictures presentation of The Talented Mr. Ripley, presented by Aasta Cailean Thomas. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what's going to be done tonight, we at Wolfpack Pictures want to do a quick land acknowledgement. Our university stands on unceded lands with past and present ties to indigenous peoples, specifically the Tuscarora and Catawba tribes, lands that have witnessed the systemic maltreatment of enslaved persons and their descendants. We recognize these facts, honor these people, and work to rectify injustices and exclusions in the past and present. So, just a little background information before we begin on Wolfpack Pictures. Wolfpack Pictures is a film collective run by graduate students at NCSU with the help of Dr. John Stadler. Our goal is to showcase unique and diverse films to the NC State community and to the public. We believe that film serves as a meeting ground of art, history, technology, politics, and economics, and such engagement is not limited to what is on screen, but what extends to where and with whom the screening is taking place. To learn more about us and to keep up to date with all of our screenings and our events, you can follow us on our social media pages, Wolfpack_Pics. And if you like the film and discussion you see today, be sure to come back for our screening of Short Bus, presented by Scarlett Tarasky on September 29th in this very room at 7 p.m. Little content warning, Short Bus is a very sexually explicit film. There is unsimulated sex scenes in it, so if that's not something you're down for, I'm giving you that content warning now. So, during this inaugural year, we are screening 7 films that are linked to the theme of desire. From the frenetic wants of film noir protagonists to the sensual yearning of melodramatic romantic leads, desire plays a significant role in cinema. Desires for sex, love, family, wealth, power, and justice, all of these play a key role in defining who we are. It is a concept that is integral to feminist, queer, Marxist, and psychoanalytic approaches to film studies. Wolfpack Pictures invites you to explore film's imagined representations of desire and interrogate how those imaginations go on to shape our own desires in whatever form they may take. Now, a little information about our presenter and film we are screening tonight. Aasta Thomas is a second-year MA English film student with special interests in the spatial analysis of 1950s Los Angeles violent crime film noirs using GIS mapping. In her free time, she enjoys doing multimedia art and gardening. If you need some peppers, hit Aasta up. She's got a ton. Tonight's film, The Talented Mr. Ripley, follows Tom Ripley, a young underachiever who is sent to Italy to retrieve Dickie Greenleaf, a rich and spoiled millionaire playboy in the 1950s. But when the errand fails, Ripley takes extreme measures. Following the screening, Aasta will be hosting a question and answer session for all of you guys so we can further discuss how desire plays out in this film and what exactly it means to us and to the world of the film. But now, Aasta Thomas.
You don't have the clock. Oh no. Give me 1 second to pull up my notes. I'm going to make this kind of quick just because Talented Mr. Ripley is kind of long. But I was really excited this year to learn that our theme was going to be desire. I think desire and cinema really go hand in hand and have such a good and rich history together. Cinema really impacts the way that we sort of conceive of our own pleasures and reflects them back to us, like from things as benign as like product placement to really more complex and like nebulous influences. So tonight's film is The Talented Mr. Ripley. It came out in 1999, and it is adapted from a 1955 crime novel by Patricia Highsmith. She was incredibly influential in the crime genre, and like for most important for our needs, most of her books have been turned into canonical film noirs. With my personal favorite being Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. You should watch that after this. But noir is really interesting for discussing desire. It's a genre that is all about wanting things and then having those wants completely destroy your life. But what makes like The Talented Mr. Ripley so interesting to me and Highsmith's work more broadly is that by and large her criminal protagonists don't have their lives ruined. They largely get away with all of their schemes and have their desires fulfilled in a way that is sort of atypical for the genre at the time. So, which brings us back to the 1999 film. The Talented Mr. Ripley is less of a noir per se than more heavily invested in the melodramatic mode, which is really interesting to me. All of her other adaptations of this book lean very heavily into the crime aspects, but this film is much more invested in sort of like the inner lives of its characters in a way that I think really lends it to a reading that focuses on desire. And I'm just going to point out two things that I want you guys to pay attention to in the context of desire. The first is this film is very much about wealth and power and sort of like the idea of class mobility. So this film takes place in the 1950s in Italy. It stars American characters and it portrays a very like specific brand of American decadence. So I really want you guys to pay attention to sort of how that lifestyle is portrayed and how Minghella, the director, goes to pains to sort of make that lifestyle desirable to us. Do we want the same things that these rich characters have? Do we not want them? Or is like this lifestyle sort of like utterly corrupted and insidious to a way that desire is rendered like obsolete? And then the second thing I really want to focus on is queer desire. This, I would argue, is a queer film, and that's the reason we're showing this one instead of one of the earlier adaptations. The 1999 film is very interested in how queer desire operates in the 1950s and who exactly is allowed to express queer desire and how that sort of, what allowances are made, like what they look like, and in what context those desires play out. Some characters can express queerness in ways that others can't, depending on a lot of intersecting factors. The character of Tom Ripley in particular, I would argue, is a queer character and really portrays, like, his queerness is portrayed very, like, interestingly, in my opinion. I think it intersects with the, like, wealth themes in particular. Sorry, 1 second. But yeah. So I think there are cases to be made for other characters in this film being queer and also just like the narrative in and of itself. Patricia Highsmith herself, like the terminology is somewhat like difficult because it was the 1950s, but she definitely was attracted to and had sex with other women. She wrote Carol, which is basically considered the first lesbian novel with a happy ending under a pseudonym. It was later made into a movie. You've probably seen that one. It won a bunch of Oscars. It's pretty good also. But in general, I just want to really focus on this intersection of like wealth and class mobility with queer sexuality and how that really impacts how these characters operate, in particular with Tom Ripley, but also just the characters more broadly and how it speaks to a broader American mentality and how we think about wealth and power. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and get started.